Good evening, everyone. We have passed the halfway point in the inaugural Automobilista Supercars Championship, and Jake Moloney leads by just 36 points over his new teammate Kurt Stenberg. We're counting down to the endurance portion of the championship, but before we get to October, we still have the not insignificant matter of the remaining 3 SuperSprint rounds, beginning tonight at Queensland Raceway for the Ipswich SuperSprint. My name's Stairs. Madbird rejoins me in commentary again tonight. Good evening, Madbird.
Pleasure to be back, Stairs. Thank you very much to Floodman for covering for me last time out at Townsville. I am very happy to be back, very keen to be here at the Paperclip, and looking forward to some excellent racing, Stairs.
Certainly the case. Let's have a quick look at the points situation as we go into the 9th round of the championship. And as I said just a moment ago, Jake Moloney with a slender lead over Kurt Stenberg that can quite easily be eroded, and Brody Steen in 3rd place, about 1 or 2 race wins back in 3rd place. Colin Warwick, very, very consistent driver, a few podiums for him, and he is in 4th, ahead of Sean Allen, the Race on Oz driver who won the 2 races at the Perth Super Night event. Ahead of Will Devonish, another consistent points getter. Ethan Warren in 7th place, Zach Baker in 8th, and Corey Preston in 9th ahead of Jay Borg, rounding out the top 10.
Thank you very much, Stez. Having a look at the team points classification. So we have Race on Oz Racing with about an 800-point lead over Trans-Tasman Racing at the moment. Trans-Tasman, of course, bolstering its ranks with Jake Moloney as of last round. Currently in 2nd with 2,100 points. Astro Altus Esports in 3rd. Trans-Tasman Racing number 2 in 4th place. War Race Engineering, Colin Warwick, and War Race Engineering being Will Devonish and Ozrob. Consistent points finishes getting them up into 5th place. ZB Racing in the Ford FG X Falcon in 6th. Stealth Penrite Racing, Colin Warwick, good points finishes getting them into 7th. JMSR into 8th. Logitech G Altus Esports in 9th, and Synergy Sim Racing, team number 3, holding out the last spot in that top 10 list there, Stairs.
And here is the schedule for tonight's events and qualifying, getting underway just after 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, 10 minutes. Back to the normal 10-minute qualifying sessions this week. No more shootouts, at least till we get to the endurance portion of the season. And our normal 60-kilometre race 1, 100-kilometre race 2 with a pit stop, and that'll be a 19-lap race 1 and a 33-lap race 2.
Going to be some good racing here around the Paperclip. It's a sort of unassuming track. It's quite simple to look at on a map, but having raced it ourselves in V8 Supercars back in the day for Apex Rear Wing, it's anything but easy. There's all the corners are pretty much fast, and some very late braking zones. So I'm looking forward to this one, Stairs. It should be a cracker.
Yes, absolutely. The unofficial, I guess, predecessor to this championship was the Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship, which raced here last year, and my recollection of that race is that it was an absolute cracker. Lots of side-by-side action, and I expect nothing less tonight. Simple tracks, sometimes people can overthink them. It's really just about nailing all 6 corners here, and if you can do that, then you're going to be reasonably quick. Very, very tough on tyres, very, very fast mid-corner around here, and Ethan Warren at the moment looking the goods. He's won 3 out of the last 4 races, and probably could have won that 3rd one if not for a bit of bad luck with some drive-through penalties, and that was last time out in Townsville. So once again, topping the timesheets by 0.6 of a second, but we haven't yet seen a time from Jake Moloney.
Jake Moloney usually leaves his hot laps sort of late in practice if he sets one at all. Sometimes likes to come across into the qualifying session with people not quite knowing where he is. The Super 2 race, meanwhile, has just concluded, and we have Mark Pickett taking out the win ahead of Thomas Poole and JP Courier, who is a familiar name there from Super 2, rounding out the podium. So we probably will get a wild card or 2 out of those 3 coming over into the main race. So keep an eye out to see who comes across.
Yes, our congratulations to those guys. I can see Thomas Paul has joined the server, and so that would mean that he's our wild card, and so too Hayden Warrington. So was he one of those place getters in the Super 2 or just another wild card new entry? So congratulations to our wild cards for earning themselves a spot in the main game. Very much look forward to seeing what they can do tonight.
Looks as if Hayden got 4th place in the race. So not quite a podium sitter, but still managed to hold down a decent points finish. Caleb Beecroft, who we have in the server as well, finished down in 7th place. So not sure if that's due to the top 3 choosing not to come across, or if he might be told you're getting a little bit too big for your breeches, son, or something like that. But we are... What are we, about 2 3/4 minutes away from qualifying session, Stairs. And as you say, Ethan Warren currently top of the timesheets with a 1:37.1.
And it's only because he's missed a number of rounds that Ethan Warren isn't further up in the championship. He is in the top 10, but having missed 5 races, that has proved to be quite costly and is the reason why he's so far off the back. But we're coming up to that part of the championship where people can potentially lose a lot of points with the endurance races happening, and you could quite easily lose 300 points in one go. And we also have the matter of the drop round, which has yet to take effect, and that means that drivers will be able to drop their worst points performance of the season, and that could potentially put Ethan Warren a bit further up the standings.
Absolutely. He has been dominant when he has managed to come along. He's been handing it to Jake Moloney and Kurt Stenberg, who have, apart from, if it wasn't for his lack of attendance, he'd be right up there amongst that, if not ahead of the 2 championship protagonists. But as it is, it's been a bit of a back and forth battle between Jake Moloney, usually winning, but when he doesn't win, he tends to go all wrong. Whereas Kurt Stenberg's tends to be a reliable top 10, top 5 position getter, just hauling those points home, which is very valuable across the length of a season.
Absolutely. We are just 1 minute away from the end of this practice session. We're currently looking at Colin Warwick, who is sitting in 4th in the championship and 4th in this practice session. Best results of 3rd places on 2 particular occasions, and he'll certainly be looking to add to that tally tonight. Interesting to note that we haven't had times yet from our 2 championship protagonists, so whether or not they're keeping their powder dry or not remains to be seen. Fairly full server, and in addition to the drivers that we mentioned before who are new to this round, we've also got Griffin Gardner in the number 93. Hasn't set a time yet. One of a fair chunk of cars, 5 or 6 cars at the bottom of the timesheets, or who have not yet set a time, so they're not even on the timesheets. So a lot of unknowns going into qualifying. It's fair to say.
I'm hoping Griffin Gardner is quick, because that is a fantastic race driver name. I could see shouting Griffin Gardner. I like that alliteration. I'm very keen. We've just clicked over to 0 minutes and 0 seconds, and to be sure, 0 hours in this practice session. So we will be hopping over into qualifying very shortly, I imagine. Colin Warwick here might not be able to finish this lap before the end of the practice session. I've been on board with him for the last few minutes, just trying to get a lay of the circuit. He is almost up on his personal best, but he is about 8/10 down on Ethan Warren's time. So it just goes to show how fast Ethan Warren is. Oh, and I'd say that is binned. Well and truly binned. But it is just practice. Qualifying, the important one, is still to come. And then the even more important one of the race itself. And, of course, race 2. I'm getting myself into a ditch here, Stairs. Dig me out of it.
Yes, he threw it into turn 6 and he missed. And it went in the bin instead, and he said, nothing but net. Sure, meant to do that. Anyway, that is the end of practice, and Ethan Warren holding on to a 0.6 of a second advantage over Sean Allen. A quite big margin, considering this short track was just the 6 drivers and with the 6 corners. And speaking of drivers, Mark Pickett joining at the end of that session as well to someone else's
Kurt Stenberg's
expense.
dropped out.
Kurt Stenberg's dropped out. But it's not. We haven't rolled out into qualifying just yet. He needs to be in when we start qualifying, otherwise he won't be able to join. So that is something that he will certainly hope he can do. Although the timer is showing us 10 minutes, so qualifying is going to get underway very, very shortly indeed. Kurt Stenberg, I don't know if he's made it in time. Time will tell. Live timing and scoring available at rsmclanau.liveraces.com. You can see everything that we are looking at as we await the beginning of this qualifying session. So there is a calm over the Queensland Raceway circuit here in Ipswich. And cars beginning to make their move into the pit lane. You can see Thomas McMillan in the Mega Black car, Ethan Warren, all just pulling out of their garages. Shout out to Imakar in the live chat, who is one of our admins in this championship. Takes care of the server side technical things, and says should be an interesting race. Super 2 was awesome, and given the close times we saw in the live timing, we didn't see the race itself, but we can only suggest that is very much the case.
Absolutely. Looks good, all these cars pulling out of their pit. Almost a little accident there between Colin Warwick, I think, Jay Borg and Thomas McMillan. Bit of an unsafe release. Speaking of unsafe releases, we have...
what's going on there?
We had a car flipped around at the front of the pits. Looks like he'd spun around into Caleb Beecroft, but they've managed to get themselves all straightened out. As it is, I believe the first car on the track we have is Zach Baker of Zach Baker Racing fame. So he will be the first one to come across the the start-finish line to start his flying lap once we do get there. Did Kurt Stenberg end up getting back into the service stairs? I can't see him. Doesn't look like he did. So that is a damn shame for our championship co-tagonist.
And I'm also looking for Jake Moloney in that list. I don't see him. We got 21. Sorry, he is in 16th. You can breathe a sigh of relief, Jake Moloney fans. He is in. Let's jump on board with Zach Baker as he approaches the final corner. We'll take our first flying lap of this qualifying session and show you this very simple, very short Queensland Raceway. So building speed all the way up to the line, and then they've been told not to cross all 4 wheels over the pit line there. That would be considered a track cut. Into turn 1, carry the speed all the way down to turn 2. Very harsh on the gearbox as he downshifts, and then this is a very, very important corner because it's one of the longest straights. In fact, I believe it is the longest straight on the racetrack, down to turn 3, which is a hard braking zone and a very good overtaking opportunity. A long 180-degree right-hander, feeding the power in, squaring off the corner. Lots of space to go wide on the exit here, and then bring it down to turns 4 and 5, which is the double left-hander. Again, more asphalt on the right-hand side that you can use to make the angle of your turn-in a bit less sharp. And then all the way down to turn 6, another good overtaking opportunity, turning right this time. Quite similar to turn 3 in effect. And then early apex, getting on the throttle, little bit of wheels on the grass and across the line to set a 107.5, first qualifying lap of the session for Zach Baker.
That was looked like a very clean lap, very tasty. He's currently holding on to that first position on the timing screen, so it looks as if his teammate behind him might have cut a corner or something, since David Nadedick has not set a time. Zach Baker staying at the top of the timing screen. He's got Thomas McMillan, Matt Lepoitovan, Michael Pickett, who was, of course, the winner of the Super 2 race. Jake Moloney has set a time. He is 3.5 tenths up on Zach Baker, and Ethan Warren has set a time as well and has not matched Jake Moloney. He is about 1.5 tenths, the better part of 2 tenths down on Jake Moloney through his hot lap, and Nigel Marneef showing his pace. hopping up into third place provisionally. And Zach Baker still managing to hold down that fourth position. Griffin Gardner into fifth.
Just watching Thomas McMillan, he's lost a fair bit of time on this lap. We're going to rejoin, though, Jake Moloney because he set a very fast first sector time on his second flying lap in a row. And about half a tenth up on what he managed before, but he's lost it through the middle sector. What can Ethan Warren do in response? It's only 0.2 of a second separating them. And Jake Moloney is certainly showing us that he does have the pace. We'll have a quick look now while there's no one on a particularly hot lap. Here's Griffin Gardner. He's Thomas McMillan's teammate there in the number 93, just so we can bring you up to speed with some of the new guys and what liveries to look out for them. Hayden Warrington there in the number 70 car. I like that livery. And his teammate is Thomas Paul, I believe. There's Caleb Beecroft in one of the Altimas. And there is Thomas Paul in the number 305. So it's very good to see some new liveries in this season, in this championship, Madbird.
It is, and it's interesting to see some old liveries but on new cars. With Jake Moloney being in that iconic white and red Trans-Tasman Racing. Mark Pickett there in the Stealth Penrite by the looks of it, teammate of Colin Warwick. So he is setting some decent times for the winner of the Super 2. He is currently second fastest, only a tenth and a bit down on Jake Moloney, who has not yet improved on that blistering time he set earlier.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but fantastic to see a new runner right up there with the top guys. So Mark Pickett looking like he may well in future be a full-time main game driver here.
Absolutely. Nigel Marneef down in sixth has gone 0.2 faster than his best time through the second sector. So he is looking to jump up ahead of... That would put him up into third place provisionally. See if he's hung on to it through the last sector of the race. Oh, sorry, and he has. He's up into second place, only a tenth down on Jake Moloney. So there is an absolute scramble for the top few position places in qualifying. Ethan Warren not having it all his own way, down into fourth already. So he'll be wanting to pull his finger out. As the locals would say. They probably have some weirder way of saying it, being in Queensland, but regardless, he is currently in fourth, and he would have thought he'd be starting on the front row based off of the practice results. So he's gonna want to do a bit better in the 3 3/4 minutes remaining in this session.
So we had a brief pause in the qualifying session while 4 out of the top 5 were in the pits, but they've all emerged apart from... Oh no, looks like they all emerged now. The only man in the top 10 who's not on the racetrack is David Nenedick. So Ethan Warren is on an outlap. We saw on our other monitor just moments ago one of the styrofoam boards being collected by one of the drivers, hoping that wasn't a brake marker board. Thomas Paul is having some lag issues we're just seeing on the other screen, so it may well be, unfortunately, that he has to jump out. And it looks like the lag issues rectify themselves as we... No, there they go. So that's not good news for Thomas Paul. He'll probably have to jump out, and unfortunately now he's getting another car's way while he tries to make his way around.
Yeah, not what we want to see. When I saw that on our other monitor for a moment, I was a little bit concerned that it might have been a server issue. We, touch wood, haven't had any server issues since the championship split into Super and Super 2. And we, of course, hope that continues on tonight.
Nigel Marneef has just set another fast sector. Purple in sector number 1. Oh, he's only a thousandths off Jake Moloney through the middle sector. This is going to be mighty, mighty interesting. Coming to the final corner, he has absolutely come alive. No, he's in. He must have binned it somewhere because he's come in. Well, that's a bit of a shame. So I was talking that up, looking like it could be a pole lap.
And as he was actually on that lap, Jake Moloney has gone fastest through the first 2 sectors. He is now 2.5 tenths up on his best first 2 sectors, coming through turn 6 onto the start-finish straight. So this is going to be a new provisional pole lap as Ethan Warren has jumped up by a tenth, but Jake Moloney I think is going to take it back, and he does. By almost, that is 3 tenths faster than his previous lap. incredible work there from Jake Moloney. Ethan Warren looking at the timing screen thinking, what the hell am I meant to do?
So much traffic on the racetrack now. There is just 1.5 minutes left. You've got to be getting onto the racetrack right about now if you want to set another time. Ethan Warren is up, but he had a huge wiggle out of turn number 3. But he wants to try and reply to this time that Jake Moloney has set. He's got the best part of 0.3 of a second to find, and he's all over. He's just wiggling around on the brakes. He's a 1/10.5 down now. His PB, though, he's going to improve by 100th or so. He's got it all to do in the final corner for Ethan Warren. If he's fueled, he'll have one more opportunity after this one. But this looks like it may well be his best chance because the tyres will go away from him. And he's lost out actually on his personal best there.
Absolutely. He just doesn't seem to be as planted, not anywhere near as smooth and calm as Jake Moloney is. He seemed to be wriggling under the under throttle and under braking at almost all points, as we see Sean Allen there taking a very tight line through the last corner and onto the start-finish straight. Currently sitting in third, remains in third as we've got 20 seconds left, so he will have another crack at it. But anyone that will cross the line now will be on a hurry up to do a fast lap. I reckon that might have been a sedate outlap from Colin Warwick because he was a good 8 seconds down on his best time. Brody Steen there not improving, nowhere near, and Ethan Warren has backed off as well. So Ethan Warren has given up the pole chase. He will be starting on the front row at this stage. Brody Steen with a handful of opposite lock, very well held there, young man. Not sure if that's going to improve your time at all. As we've got Jake Moloney currently provisional pole, and his biggest rival Ethan Warren not gonna challenge that. So looking like Jake Moloney on pole at this stage. Is there anyone else improving on the circuit? Doesn't look like it. Seeing a lot of red and yellow sectors, not too many greens. As Ethan Warren pulls back into the pits.
Yeah, it looks as though a lot of these guys have gone for multiple lap runs, but the tyres just have gone away from them in the second and third runs. Lots of people here on laps that are just not improving on their own personal best. So, looks like the top 10, as David Nededick comes into the pits, has been decided. In fact, we'll just see if we can see anyone else on our lap time, whether we see any more changes of position. But doesn't look as though there are going to be any. So Jake Moloney takes pole position from Ethan Warren. So Jake Moloney's struggled a bit against Ethan Warren in recent qualifying sessions, but he's got one back for bragging rights there. Ethan will be certainly eager to beat him into turn 1. And Sean Allen, fantastic qualifying session from him. And Nigel Marneef up into 4th place. Was looking like he may grab pole position a moment ago, but then they just raised the bar a little bit.
Yeah, just went to an extra gear that Nigel unfortunately didn't have. Just drawing attention to Mark Pickett, the winner of the Super 2 race, starting in 5th place, which is incredible work there for the Super 2 runner. So I believe on the topic of Jake and Ethan, I think that Jake's racecraft is a little bit better than Ethan's. I think Ethan's quite good at just checking out when he's ahead, but he's a little bit Sebastian Vettel when it comes to actually battling with someone. He has a bit of he doesn't do quite as well. So if he doesn't get ahead of Jake Moloney in the early stage of the race, as we've got Kurt Stenberg finally joining in, he will be starting from the rear of the grid. If he doesn't get ahead of Jake Moloney in the early stages, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to manage it, Stairs.
Well, we'll find out. We're going to have a quick break, on the other side of which we will get started for race 1 here at the Ipswich SuperSprint. Don't go anywhere.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Round 8 took us to the streets of Townsville, and Ethan Warren continued his run of excellent form to take pole position.
But it was championship leader Jake Moloney, newly recruited to Trans-Tasman Racing, who led at the start as his teammate and title rival Kurt Stenberg got to 7th. Moloney led the way until lap 16, when a small error as he came up behind a back marker caused him to lose the lead to Ethan Warren. Stenberg had recovered to 5th place after his poor start and caught the 3rd place battle between Zach Baker and Sean Allen until Sean came into the pits on lap 18, the first of the front runners to pull the trigger. 1 lap later, Jake Moloney came in to try and get an undercut on race leader Ethan Warren. However, it would be a moot point as Ethan would receive a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. With Warren out of contention, this left Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg in the final 2 podium spots, going side by side for almost a whole lap before Stenberg eventually got by. As the race reached its closing stages, it seemed that all of the major positions had been decided until a rare safety car period occurred. With the green and white checker rule still in effect, this made the race a couple of laps longer and forced race leader Moloney to come into the pits for a splash and dash, ceding position to Kurt Stenberg, Sean Allen and Zach Baker. On lap 37, the race was restarted for a 1-lap final dash to the line, which saw Kurt Stenberg streak away in the lead while Moloney rounded up Sean Allen and Zach Baker on the run down to turn 2. Chaos unfolded behind, but at the front, Stenberg was able to hold off the final sector attack from Moloney to claim his first victory of the year in bizarre circumstances. Ethan Warren took pole position for race 2 ahead of Kurt Stenberg as Jake Moloney started from the rear of grid after not setting a lap in qualifying. For the second time of the night, the second place man got the better start as Stenberg led out of turn 2. On lap 5, Ethan Warren was able to make his way past Kurt Stenberg for the lead of the race. Colin Warwick was having a strong run in 3rd place, keeping Sean Allen behind for a number of laps before our second safety car period of the night, which triggered a flurry of activity in the pit lane. Jake Moloney had a terrific opening stint, making his way into the top 10. He would gain more spots as Corey Preston and Zach Baker missed their opportunity to pit before the field was condensed. By the time everything had all shaken out, Moloney found himself in 5th place, attacking Sean Allen after the restart. Moloney was able to get ahead and then dispatched Colin Warwick for 3rd place a few laps later. And the smallest of mistakes from Stenberg opened the door for Moloney, who waltzed through to claim 2nd place. There would be no more changes of position for the major places to the end of the race, and despite a bit of damage to Ethan Warren's Mustang, the Astro Altus eSports driver was still able to bring it home and make it 3 wins from the previous 4 starts.
Welcome back to Ipswich for the 9th round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We're about to get started for race 1, 19 laps, 60 kilometres, or roughly 25 minutes. Fuel usage set to ×2. Of course, this is just a sprint race. They won't need to make a pit stop during this race. Quick look at the racetrack thanks to Google Earth Studio, and here's a bit of a flyover over what is frankly quite a simple racetrack. That's turn 3. Making our way up to the double left-handers there at turns 4 and 5, and then up to the final corner, 180-degree right-hander at turn number 6. That is the racetrack, and that is the grid. So we're gridding up. We're not too far away from a start, Madbird.
Absolutely. I am keen. Stairs, the paperclip, usually produces some interesting racing. I think it's definitely going to be interesting with that fellow Ray that you can see way at the back of the grid. Kurt Stenberg starting from the very back due to not making qualifying. I reckon he'll be scything his way up through the grid at an absolute rate of knots. And at the front of the grid, complete polar opposite, we have his teammate and championship rival Jake Moloney starting ahead of Ethan Warren, who for all my money was going to have the pole position Stairs. So he's managed to pull that one over on me.
Yes, he has, and well, they're off on their warm-up lap. We're going to go through them quickly because it won't take them very long. That is Jake Moloney with the yellow wings. That's the yellow wing mirrors, I should say. That's how you tell him apart from Kurt Stenberg's Trans-Tasman racing car. Ethan Warren in at 2nd place for Astro Altus Esports has been the most dominant driver of the last 2 rounds. What can he do from 2nd on the grid? Sean Allen will start out of 3rd place for Race on Oz, ahead of Nigel Marneef, and if I'm not mistaken, that's his best qualifying session so far. Mark Pickett for Stealth Penrite Racing. Fantastic debut qualifying session in the main game at 5th place. Colin Warwick, his Stealth Penrite Racing teammate, in 6th place. Ahead of Zach Baker. Thomas McMillan for the Mega Black Holden ZB Commodore. Start out of 8th place. He always provides some excitement for us. The second of the two Race on Oz cars, Brody Steen, will be in 9th place. David Nenedict rounds out the top 10. Griffin Gardner, Thomas McMillan's new teammate, in 11th place. Look forward to seeing what he can do for us. Matt Lepoidovan, another Penrite car, in 12th place. Ahead of Stephen Birchall in the Monster Mustang. Hayden Warrington starts in 14th place. I don't believe his teammate will be joining us with the lag issues that he was having. Never mind. He apparently has fixed them. I should not presume. Jay Borg in 16th place, ahead of Aidan Schultz in the number 11, Team 11. Michael Ford in one of our Nissan Altimas starts out of 18th place, ahead of Caleb Beecroft, who seems to have caught the lag bug by the looks of it. Ozrob in 20th place, and bookending the field for Trans-Tasman Racing is Kurt Stenberg.
Absolutely. I am pumped, Stairs. This is going to be a very, very short wait, I think, for the lights here, so I won't dilly-dally too long. Just keep your eyes on that Trans-Tasman at the back. I think he's going to be going places.
Well, who's going to get the better start? Not a huge amount of stagger here, and if Ethan Warren gets the better launch, he may well go around the outside of Jake Moloney. I predict side-by-side action aplenty. The revs are rising. We're about to go racing in Queensland Raceway. There's a bit of smoke, there's a bit of lights, and there's a bit of racing. Jake Moloney is a little bit tardy off the line. Ethan Warren, as predicted, gets the better launch, but they're going to be side-by-side going into the first corner. Sean Allen's got the leap on... there's a bit of contact actually in the back there between the Erebus right car of Colin Warwick and Sean Allen, and the lag. The lag has continued. Can you believe it? Not even 15 seconds into the race, and the lag has started.
Oh, God, I hope that is not a sign of things to come. That was an incredible start from Colin Warwick, getting the jump on a couple of drivers, including his new teammate, Mark Pickett. Thomas McMillan, also an absolute blistering start up into 3rd place. Meanwhile, towards the back of the grid, we have Kurt Stenberg up 4 positions from his start. And we have Ethan Warren getting that job done on Jake Moloney. So he can now get his head down, worry about his line, and nail in some consistent lap times. And Jake Moloney has got a little bit of a gap to Sean Allen behind him, so not having to worry too much about the attack from behind, unlike Ethan Warren, who has now got Jake Moloney quite close behind him. Never mind what I said about checking out ahead. I think this is going to be an interesting battle to watch. Meanwhile, Zach Baker, making the position up on Thomas McMillan down the start-finish straight. He is up into 6th place, right behind Mark Pickett, who is still chasing after his teammate, Colin Warwick. Stairs.
Yeah, so much action there. And I wonder if the lag was what the drivers saw, because in that melee, that was when Ethan Warren managed to make the move stick on Jake Moloney. Now we're seeing Zach Baker under attack from Thomas McMillan, and ahead of them, or outbraking himself, Zach Baker, under pressure now from Nigel Munneef as the two Penrite cars go side by side, and Colin Warwick loses the position to Mark Pickett on the way down to turn 4. It looks like Warwick is going to settle in behind now. Zach Baker's fighting back on Nigel Munneef up the inside of turn 4. That was a clean, decisive move. Now this is all allowing the top 3 to get away. Ethan Warren has a 0.4 of a second advantage over Jake Moloney, and Sean Allen a second behind, but Mark Pickett well over a second behind him.
Absolutely, and a cracking battle there for the minor places behind the podium. Those Stealth Penrite cars taking no prisoners. Kurt Stenberg now up 7 positions from his start, only on the end of lap 2, and he's lining up Stephen Birchall ahead of him in the Monster Mustang car. He is going to have that position done, and probably a couple of others besides before the end of the lap, I reckon. He's going to have an immense run down into turn 3. Stephen Birchall goes, he gets a little bit of opposite lock. He manages to hold on to it almost, comes across the track. That was very nearly a horrible accident. That must have been arse-clenching stuff from Michael Ford and Aidan Schultz, who I believe, Michael Ford and Ozrob, who were the two drivers who were quickly approaching as Stephen Birchall flipped across the track. Managed to avoid him. So very well done from everybody there, keeping it nice and tidy as he rejoined the track, because that could have very easily been a horrible accident, Stairs.
Yeah, let's just catch a replay of that. The initial spin, and then it kind of grips up, and I really hope he was on the brakes there, because that was a very, very unsafe rejoin as he slid across the two cars who would not have been expecting a car to come across the racetrack at 90 degrees to the direction that they were traveling. That was very, very unsafe indeed. He's brought upon the ire of the stewards in previous races for contact, not last round, in fact, in Townsville, for contact with Jay Borg. Got a 25-point penalty there as someone in the background, believe that was Thomas McMillan getting on the grass out of turn 2.
I will say, in Birchall's defense, I'm not entirely sure how in control of his car he was at that moment. It looked as if he was sort of losing it on the grass, but I'll leave that for better men than me to decide. As, yeah, Thomas McMillan just a little bit wide there, managing to hold onto it coming out of turn 2, and he hasn't lost any positions out of it. Meanwhile, at the front, Jake Moloney has not let Ethan Warren get away. He is less than a second behind him. Might be having a go down into turn 6, as we have, looks like Thomas Paul has DNF'd from the race. I'm not sure what happened there, if there was lag issues or something like that. We also lost someone else, because we've only got 20 runners, not 21. But that will not distract us here from this front battle, as we've got Jake Moloney trying to pressure Ethan Warren into going wide out of one of these very, very fast corners here around Queensland Raceway. Ipswich, the paperclip, whatever you want to call it. It is producing some excellent racing at the moment.
Well, so far, Jake Moloney has the fastest lap of the race with a 107.2, but Ethan Warren also in the 107.2s for his fastest lap of the race. So Jake Moloney's just going to rat-a-tat-tat on the back of that car, remind him that he's there all throughout the rest of this race, I should think. Try and force him into a mistake if he can't make the move. We're having a lot of action back behind them. Zach Baker looking like he's putting Colin Warwick under a bit of pressure. Colin Warwick, who's gone backwards a little bit after having such a terrific start. Now, did Thomas McMillan get past Colin Warwick at some stage unseen to us?
Yeah, he did. I'm not entirely sure where it happened. Because, yeah, he is a good couple of seconds up the road now from Colin Warwick. Zach Baker brakes a little bit later down the inside of turn 6, a little bit of contact, but Zach Baker covers off the inside of the exit of the corner, and he says, "Thank you very much, Colin. I appreciate that greatly, and I will be taking off with the spoils." And in this case, the spoils is 6th position, and Colin Warwick has nothing to chase up with him on turn 1.
Kurt Stenberg is in the top 10, and behind him is the cars that he has dispatched, and he'll be very happy that they have been dispatched. So up 11 spots from where he has started now. The next man on his list is Matt Lepoidovan, running currently in 9th place, one of a large portion of the field that have Penrite sponsorship on them. And he's caught up to him quite quickly up to turn 3. Side-by-side action behind between David Nenedick and Gardner. I'm trying to remember his first name. Griffin Gardner, beg your pardon. It's his first race, so I will certainly remember that in future. The Griffin Gardner holding down 11th place at the moment, and a huge train of cars. That's a fantastic little squabble going on at the moment.
It absolutely is. Kurt Stenberg only the better part of 12 seconds off the lead at the moment as he goes down the inside of Matt Lepoidovan. That was a very late move. I reckon Matt Lepoidovan broke a lot earlier than he was expecting. But that is the job done for Kurt Stenberg, now up into 9th place and can set about closing that 12-second disadvantage he has to the lead. Although Matt Lepoidovan might have a go around the outside, breaks a little bit later. Kurt Stenberg having to go a lot slower. Matt Lepoidovan's got it.
Wow.
Around the outside. Fantastic driving there from the other Stealth Penrite driver. But Kurt Stenberg up the inside has the position done around turn 3. Although he oversteers a little bit. That's going to affect his run down here into turn 3. Matt Lepoidovan right up alongside of him, but Kurt Stenberg's going to have the inside of the into turn 3, as I did just say about 5 times. Matt Lepoidovan's trying to drive around the outside, but I don't think there's going to be anything doing. Kurt Stenberg holds on to that position. My goodness, as he gets a little bit leery on the exit.
Yeah, a bit of rallycross that may well put him under pressure as they go down to turn 4, and Matt Lepoidovan had a bit of a feint to the inside. Kurt Stenberg had it covered though, and I think now he should be clear enough to drive into the distance. The guys behind were having an equally fantastic battle in behind them, but looks like they're line astern at the moment. So let's just catch up with where everyone else is. Nigel Munneef is down to 8th place now, having qualified in 4th. Colin Warwick ahead of him, ahead of him, Zach Baker. Thomas McMillan up 3 spots. He's having a fantastic race. We love seeing the aggressive nature of his racing when he doesn't go too far over the limit. He did cop a few penalties in recent weeks, but I think he actually managed to avoid any in Townsville, so good job there. Mark Pickett in 4th place, up 1 position where he started. Sean Allen still in 3rd place, but I think he's starting to come under pressure from Mark Pickett. That gap is just ever so slightly coming down by a couple of tenths or so per lap, and the battle at the front, is as we left it.
Yeah, those cars there of Jake Moloney and Ethan Warren. As Ethan Warren gets a little bit squirrely under brakes, going to give Jake Moloney an incredible close on him. That was not a sentence that I meant to say, but regardless, he has now got it under 0.3 of a second. And we have a little bit of lag. Jake Moloney has disappeared. I do hope that this is temporary. He's going to reappear on the track.
No.
There he is. He has reappeared, but he's reappeared back in 8th position. 11th position, make that, sorry. That is, and it's happened again. He's dropping back. He's dropping back even further. This is terminal for Jake Moloney's race. No, never mind. He has reappeared in front of behind Ethan Warren, sorry. Sorry, that might have been an issue server side, not Jake Moloney's side, but Jesus, that was hairy.
Well, we're certainly hoping that it corrects itself, because we're still seeing Sean Allen in 2nd place. So hopefully just a timing glitch that rectifies itself when he goes through to complete the next lap, because he's still there clearly behind Ethan Warren. And Will Devonish is also retired from the race, we're hearing in recent times. So, that was, not retired, didn't take the start, I believe.
Yeah.
And an ever-growing list of retirements, which includes Hayden Warrington and Michael Ford. Osrob's 2 laps down, so something's gone awry for him as Jake Moloney disappears from our screens once again. So is this a server issue, or is this a Jake Moloney issue? I'm a car saying that he's fixed some things in the server to try and fix the issues with the server, but I think Jake Moloney has got issues that are separate from that.
Yeah, that looked like a issue server side. Client side for Jake Moloney, and he is DNF. Jake Moloney is out of the race, so that will be music to the ears of Kurt Stenberg, who is now up into 13th place. Just the way that Jake Moloney was the only one that disappeared, and everyone else kept shooting by him. That said to me that was a client side problem, not a server side problem. That is a damn shame there for Jake Moloney. But all the better for Ethan Warren, who now has about a 5-second buffer to Sean Allen, who is counting his lucky stars, suddenly promoted up into 2nd place. And Mark Pickett, in his first main series Super V8 Automobilista Supercars race, is currently sitting on the podium stairs. So fantastic work there for the Mark Pickett. Capitalizing on a little bit of bad luck there for Jake Moloney.
Still, he was up there anyway and able to take advantage. So it was looking like a very good 4th place start for him anyway. It's about to get better for Kurt Stenberg. He's been reeling in Colin Warwick in recent laps and slides around, where's that, turn 2, I believe. Good exit here, and he'll be able to make the dive down into turn 3. As it stands, he already holds a 54-point advantage in the championship over Jake Moloney. That's about to get bigger as he's gone down the inside of Colin Warwick, who will give him the room. And Kurt Stenberg, clean as you like, up into 7th place, and it's all falling into place for him.
Absolutely is. So he will be rubbing his hands together at every one of these positions that he manages to get. While we've got a little bit of a moment, I'm just going to quickly reply to a couple of messages we've had in the chat. So we've had Joel Smith saying, first one of these he's watched in a while. Good to have you back, Joel. Production is epic. Thank you very much. And it is next level now. So that is fantastic feedback. Thank you very much, Joel. And we've got Ben Thompson asking whose voice was on the ad and suggesting it might have been Stenny's. Stenny with a very feminine voice there, if that is the case. So looks like Will Devonish had some internet problems, but will hopefully be back for race 2. We do hope so. He's a perennial Automobilista Supercars runner, and he's usually up there having a good tussle. So Hope to see him back for race 2. Looks like Zach Baker, meanwhile, is closing down on Tom McMillan, as we've got a replay here of Kurt Stenberg going wide at the, looks like turn 6, coming onto the start-finish straight. Just got a little bit of opposite lock as he came into the braking zone. Colin Warwick said, "Thank you very much. I will take that position back. You don't need to offer it to me twice." And he has done exactly that. Kurt Stenberg having made the position back again, down into turn 3 once again. So Colin Warwick just throws up his hands in dismay, presumably. But don't think he'll be too upset. They are good friends and co-admins here of Automobilista Supercars. Don't think Colin would have liked it to have been that easy for him, however.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you have your pants pulled down, you don't want to have it done again. As after the guys just pull them back up again. But anyway, we'll move on. Colin Warwick, though, I kid. Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg, 2 guys who've raced against one another for many, many years indeed. And Kurt Stenberg, life's pretty rosy right now, if you're him, because it's only going to get better from here on in this race, assuming that he finishes it, because the pace that he's showing, if we compare it to those of the guys ahead of him, 108 flat. Well, it's probably difficult to compare because he had to repass Colin Warwick on that lap. The guys ahead are in a similar sort of lap time, so he may well be able to close them down, especially considering Thomas McMillan and Zach Baker actually are having a bit of a battle at the moment, and there are potentially more positions on offer right now.
Absolutely, and he's going to want to try to get as many of them as he can, draw out a bit more of a points advantage over his rival Jake Moloney. Zach Baker, as you say, had a little peek down into turn 1 on Thomas McMillan, thought better of it. I think that would have been a very opportunistic dive. Thomas McMillan just seems a little bit shaky there on the turn in. Had to soar at the wheel a little bit by the looks of it, which has compromised his speed through the corner and onto the straight beyond. Zach Baker has a look, but just not close enough to have a proper go, as we've got someone ahead locking up and going off the track. Not sure who that was. I think it might be a back marker. Yep, so Stephen Birchall going directly on at turn 3 and straight into the wall. So going not too well there for the Monster Mustang Racing. That name trips me up every time. Currently 2 positions down from his starting position. But as we rejoin this battle between Zach Baker and Thomas McMillan going very wide there through turn, I want to say 5. And we've got Griffin Gardner all over the back of Brody Steen. Back for the 9th position on the points. Griffin Gardner up a couple of positions from his start.
Yeah, good job there from Griffin Gardner. Oops, gracious me. Mic issues. That's better. Oh! Now I don't have to lean up. So we've had a bit of a change of position in that battle we were looking at before. So let's rejoin that now as Zach Baker has made his way past Thomas McMillan. Let's have a look at how that happened down the main straight. Zach Baker had a better run, a little bit of overlap going into turn 1. No, it wasn't turn 1. It was a mistake from Thomas McMillan going into turn 1. And through the middle of the corner, Zach Baker gets the position. And Thomas McMillan, isn't going to give that one up. He's right on the back of Zach Baker now. Having a look down the inside as they approach turn 4, and look at Nigel Munteith. Look at Nigel Munteith before. Behind them, he wants to get a little piece of the action.
He does. He wants to bite down on that action and chew it and masticate it with his molars, but not sure. Masticate. Good word use. I don't think Thomas McMillan will be too happy with Zach Baker for down into turn 3 just then. Thomas McMillan almost had the position retaken from Zach Baker, but Zach Baker locked up, went a bit wide, knocked Thomas McMillan wide, and then held onto the position. So Thomas McMillan probably not too happy about that, but he's got to concentrate, focus up, and try to get this position back, because as you say, Nigel Munteith has, while they've been battling, he is less than a second behind them, and he is going num 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 num.
Didn't see what happened to Colin Warwick, but he's down into 13th place, so he's had some sort of incident. And David Nenadich as well is down in 14th place. I saw him just in the background of one of the shots earlier on in the infield on the grass recovering. And Stephen Birchall became our 5th retirement as well. So it's all kicking off. This Zach Baker battle, though, is probably the more the most interesting one that we want to see, because it's got a three-car battle potentially, and behind Griffin Gardner is has he got ahead of Brody Steen?
Difficult to tell. Looks like he has. He's made the position, and he is now 3 positions up on his starting position. So decent effort there from Griffin Gardner, that name that I so love. Kurt Stenberg, I'm not sure if something's happened to him, because he is in 7th, and I would have thought he would have made a bit more progress by now. We're on lap 17, Stairs, of 19 laps. We've only got 1 and a bit left to go. That has shot by.
Oh, here we go.
Thomas McMillan.
Thomas McMillan diving down the inside. Zach Baker outbreaks himself. Or did he see Thomas McMillan coming, and he spins around? Nigel Munif kissed on the appendage by the fairies. Nearly hit him, but missed him by the barest of margins. Let's catch a replay of that one, as Zach Baker, I thought he had that one covered. Thomas McMillan, it was just a distractionary tactic, but he forced the manoeuvre. They both went wide, and Zach Baker, getting up on the marbles, spun it up. And Nigel Munif was the luckiest man in Automobilista Supercars not to hit him.
Definitely. I was just saying that I was surprised that Kurt Stenberg hadn't made up any more positions. Of course, with Zach Baker taking himself out, Kurt Stenberg has made up another position, now running up in 6th. 15 positions, if you don't mind, up from where he started the race.
Yeah, and every position here is very, very useful for his championship bid, because he's currently in the lead now, with Jake Moloney retiring from this race. It was 60 points. I think it'll be something like 63 now. So that's very, very good news for Kurt Stenberg fans. Very, very bad news for Jake Moloney fans. Now, this has sort of broken up this battle. Nigel Munif is about a second behind Thomas McMillan. With Thomas McMillan in 4th place, that would be his one of his best results of the championship. He finishes up there on the podium, or he DNFs. That's how it goes for Thomas McMillan. He's a hard racer. So Nigel Munif in 5th place, and that would be a very, very good haul of points for him. I'm trying to see what his best result is so far, but the light is shining through the back of the sheet. Madbird will have a look at it for me, and can't see the text on it. Kurt Stenberg there, as you said, 6th place. Zach Baker in 7th place. Griffin Gardner now, he's got an 0.8 of a second advantage over Brody Steen, who he was fighting. That was 9th and 10th, is now 8th and 9th, and promotes Matt Lepoidovin up into the top 10. And he's got a 5-second advantage over Aidan Schultz. Colin Warwick has had a race to forget by his standards, down there in 12th, ahead of his teammate Jay Borg. David Nededick down in 14th place. The final man on the lead lap with Osrob 2 laps down, having had some issues earlier on. And we must be approaching the end of the race now, as Ethan Warren has just got a few more corners to go to take victory here in Queensland Raceway for race 1.
To finish off the stat that you began to say, this would equal Nigel Munif's best result with a 5th position. Ethan Warren will be equaling his best result. Wouldn't be celebrating as hard as a first-time winner, because he is definitely not a first-time winner, is Ethan Warren, coming across the line to take the win here in race 1 of Queensland Raceway. Sean Allen finishing with a solid 2nd position, and Mark Pickett with his first race for the main series of Automobilista Supercars, after winning the Super 2 race earlier on tonight, has taken 3rd position and the last podium spot here in race 1 of the main series. So very well done for him. Thomas McMillan holds on to that 4th place. Nigel Munif comes back in 5th. Kurt Stenberg up to 6th from his start, back in 21st position, Stairs.
Well, I mean, it couldn't have gone much better if your name is Kurt Stenberg. It's probably not the way he would have wanted to gain points back on Jake Moloney, but to finish first you must finish. And I guess in sim racing, a disconnection can be seen much the same way as a mechanical retirement from an actual race, such as an engine failure, gearbox, or hydraulics. So that's just the way that it goes in sim racing. Every now and then your internet connection can fail, and that can put an end to a very, very strong run. It was looking like it would be a good battle between Ethan Warren and Jake Moloney halfway through that race, but unfortunately that was something we were denied. But Ethan Warren continues a fantastic run of form, now winning 4 out of the 4 out of the last 5 races that he's raced here in Automobilista Supercars. So many congratulations to him.
Absolutely, very, very solid race, and a good haul of points there for Ethan Warren. Just going through our DNFs, we had Steve Birchall, Jake Moloney, the shock DNF of the race, out of the championship lead now by 66 points to Kurt Stenberg. Have to see what happens in race 2, though. It is a much longer race, and a lot more can happen. But this, I think, was a fantastic prelude to that, Stairs. Absolutely action-packed from start to finish. We barely had time to take a good breath.
That's right, and thank goodness actually that we didn't have the lag that looked like it would be an issue for us early on. Ended up not being the case, because 15 seconds into that race, we were dreading that the issues that beset us during the early part of the season had returned, and that would have been no good at all. So we now have a little bit of a break, in which, a little bit of a break before qualifying too, and that gives you an opportunity to jump onto the Automobilista Australia Facebook page, give them a like, so that you can follow all of the action in the future for all the rounds remaining in this season. Or if you're not a Facebook person, grab out your phone, have a look on Instagram. There's some very interesting pictures and stuff like that you can follow along. Here's a look at the season calendar. Some of those dates to be confirmed later on in the season. There is potential that the endurance round, some of those will move to nights where we can have a bit more time available, because there is very much the chance that we'll try and get the full distance events in the in this championship, and including a full distance Bathurst 1000, which would be absolutely terrific. And the next round in round 10 is going to be at the Bend, which will be very much a new quantity for all of the drivers, apart from those who have raced it in R Factor and RSM. It is a racetrack that is being converted across to Automobilista, so we're very excited about that. First time I will have ever seen it in a sim, and first time that many of the drivers will have tried it.
Absolutely, looking forward to that very much. It's the Bend's a track that we've been to recently in person, so it'll be interesting to see how it looks in sim and the sort of racing it provides.
So just waiting now for the beginning of qualifying 2. Another 10-minute session, not too long, and just a 3 or so minute break in which to get ready. We'll have a quick break now, in fact, and the other side of which we'll come back with all the action from qualifying. Don't go anywhere.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Round 8 took us to the streets of Townsville, when Ethan Warren continued his run of excellent form to take pole position. But it was championship leader Jake Moloney, newly recruited to Trans-Tasman Racing, who led at the start as his teammate and title rival Kurt Stenberg dropped to 7th. Maloney led the way until lap 16, when a small error as he came up behind a back marker caused him to lose the lead to Ethan Warren. Stenberg had recovered to 5th place after his poor start and caught the 3rd place battle between Zach Baker and Sean Allen until Sean came into the pits on lap 18, the first of the front runners to pull the trigger. 1 lap later, Jake Moloney came in to try and get an undercut on race leader Ethan Warren. However, it would be a moot point, as Ethan would receive a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. With Warren out of contention, this left Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg in the final 2 podium spots, going side by side for almost a whole lap before Stenberg eventually got by. As the race reached its closing stages, it seemed that all of the major positions had been decided, until a rare safety car period occurred. With the green and white checker rule still in effect, this made the race a couple of laps longer and forced race leader Moloney to come into the pits for a splash and dash, ceding position to Kurt Stenberg, Sean Allen and Zach Baker. On lap 37, the race was restarted for a one-lap final dash to the line, which saw Kurt Stenberg streak away in the lead, while Moloney rounded up Sean Allen and Zach Baker on the run down to turn 2. Chaos unfolded behind, but at the front, Stenberg was able to hold off the final sector attack from Moloney to claim his first victory of the year in bizarre circumstances. Ethan Warren took pole position for race 2 ahead of Kurt Stenberg as Jake Moloney started from the rear of grid after not setting a lap in qualifying. For the second time of the night, the second place man got the better start as Stenberg led out of turn 2. On lap 5, Ethan Warren was able to make his way past Kurt Stenberg for the lead of the race. Colin Warwick was having a strong run in third place, keeping Sean Allen behind for a number of laps before our second safety car period of the night, which triggered a flurry of activity in the pit lane. Jake Moloney had a terrific opening stint, making his way into the top 10. He would gain more spots as Corey Preston and Zach Baker missed their opportunity to pit before the field was condensed. By the time everything had all shaken out, Moloney found himself in 5th place, attacking Sean Allen after the restart. Moloney was able to get ahead and then dispatch Colin Warwick for 3rd place a few laps later. And the smallest of mistakes from Stenberg opened the door for Moloney, who waltzed through to claim 2nd place. There would be no more changes of position for the major places to the end of the race, and despite a bit of damage to Ethan Warren's Mustang, the Astro Altus esports driver was still able to bring it home and make it 3 wins from the previous 4 starts.
Welcome back to Ipswich, Queensland Raceway for round 9 of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. And we're about to get rolling into qualifying 2 after just witnessing Ethan Warren taking victory in race 1 with Jake Moloney DNFing the championship leader, relinquishing the championship lead to his teammate Kurt Stenberg.
Indeed, the championship leader relinquishing the championship lead and as such no longer being the championship leader. So let's hope that he manages to have a bit better luck with his connection this time around in race 2. But before we have race 2, we of course have to have qualifying 2. As we've just clicked over, by the looks of it, you can see all the sets of tyres there, no cars for them, because the cars will be popping in just a moment. But then there they are. Speak of the Devils. In the break, we did have a Ford AU Falcon say that this break was too official. It's great. So I'm not sure if that's meant to be positive or negative feedback. I'm guessing positive on your Ford AU Falcon. If only you had a Holden badge on the front of you, you would be the perfect car, as we've got a few cars here jumping out into the pit lane, ready to start their qualifying laps.
That's right. Birchall and Warwick, you can see they're 2 guys who will be hoping for a bit of luck in race 2 than what they had in race 1. And just on also that question we didn't answer before of the Ben Thompson, it was asking whose voice it was in the ad. I'm lucky enough to have a housemate who sounds very professional as a voiceover artist and is apparently the voice of syphilis in Alice Springs. But that aside, was nice enough to do this little favour for me of voiceovering that ad for me.
Love your work, Nicole. As we have a few cars hopping out. Looks like Sean Allen is eager to set some hot lap times. He is the first one out on track, quickly followed by one of the Stealth Penrite cars. As we have the Apex rear wing black Audi R8 for the safety car. I'm not sure if that's accurate to the series or if that's more an issue of the computer that we're watching this on. But regardless, if that safety car comes out, that'll be interesting to see on the broadcast. Glad to have you all here with us to watch here at the start of qualifying 2. Sean Allen just warming those tyres up, followed by Steve Birchall in the Monster Mustang racing car. I managed to get it out in one go that time, and one of the Stealth Penrite cars, can't quite see which one it is. They all kind of look alike. That isn't racist because it's a type of car.
It is a race though, so maybe it is. You get my pun. Very good. Sean Allen coming up to the middle part of the lap on his out lap, and my goodness gracious me, look at the traffic. There is a lot of it. So far, just 3 cars left in the pit lane, so there is a significant amount of a gap between David Nenedick, who's the last man to make it onto the racetrack. Behind him, if you join the racetrack right about now, you'd have a huge margin, an entire sector's worth of free space.
Yeah, but it's quickly evaporated. You would now be amidst people who are doing their hot laps, so you would want to back off if you were trying to exit the pits right now. We currently have Ozrob, Aidan Schultz, and Will Devenish. Good to see him managing to get into the server for qualifying too. Sitting in the pits, waiting, biding their time. But we have Sean Allen as the first man out on track, coming across the first sector, 23.6. Can't say I know enough about the track to say whether that is fast or not, but it will probably become clear by the end of this lap, because we've got people like Ethan Warren, we've got people like Kurt Stenberg, and we've got people like Jake Moloney. Has he gotten back into the server? Yes, he has. So we have got people like those three who tend to nail their lap times, and Kurt Stenberg having the relative luxury of getting to set a qualifying time this time around. Didn't get to in race one. He started from the back of the grid, so any position above 18th, which is currently last on the grid, will be a good position for Kurt Stenberg. Sean Allen here coming around turn 6 to come across the start-finish line with a 1:07.5. That's a pretty solid time, I would expect. And no one has toppled him as yet. Ethan Warren has, and of course, topped him with a 1:07.2. Colin Warwick in third place currently with a 1:08.1. So a lot of time left there on the table. Zach Baker with a 1:07.7. So Ethan Warren stamping his authority. Jake Moloney, not fastest. He is second fastest, about a 10th down on Ethan Warren. So the roles are reversed from the first qualifying session, where Jake Moloney set the early fast time. It's now Ethan Warren setting the fast time, and Jake Moloney's going to have to chase it, Stairs.
A lot of time left in this qualifying session, though. We saw Nigel Marneef in the early stages of qualifying 1 on the front row, but that didn't remain the case for very long, because once the qualifying session got into its closing stages, we saw that all change around. Now, Mark Pickett, currently set in 12th, is up on the time set by Ethan Warren last time around. Ethan Warren yet to set a sector time at the moment, currently in sector 3, according to our live timing screen. So Mark Pickett, looking like he may well be the big mover right now. He's just lost a little bit through the middle sector. He's up on his own personal best by a thick end of a second, but he's only a 10th away from Ethan Warren. That would put him in between him, Ethan Warren and Jake Moloney, knocking Jake off the front row. One more corner for Mark Pickett, but he's having a huge amount of trouble getting the power down. Lots of opposite locks through turn 6, and slots in third. Not too far away. Good lap from Mark Pickett.
Absolutely. He has started this qualifying session where he finished the last race in third position, although the people ahead of him slightly different. He will be wanting to try to stay there at the pointy end of the grid for the start of race 2. Check out ahead of all the drama that I'm sure will ensue. Jake Moloney currently in second by just over a 10th, but he has improved on his best time by 1.5 tenths. So if he keeps this up for the rest of the lap, he will be taking provisional pole position with 5 minutes left in the...
Oh, no!
Oh, no! Oh, that is absolutely shocking luck. Jake Moloney comes around turn 4 and finds the other Trans-Tasman car of, I believe, Kurt Stenberg, sitting there horizontally across the track, just nothing he could do. Right on the racing line there, you see he's just spun out, and Jake Moloney just had to straighten the tyres up, and there was no chance of continuing that lap at that stage. That is horrible luck for Jake Moloney.
Yeah, he'll curse till he's black and blue about Kurt Stenberg. That was a very fortuitous spin for Kurt Stenberg. He didn't do it on purpose. There's no way he would have done that on purpose, because he's trying to get a decent lap time in himself. He hasn't done a representative time yet. Still sat in 13th place. Jake Moloney's having another go. What have we seen?
Sean Allen up into provisional pole position by a 10.5. He has taken that position from Ethan Warren and said, "Thank you very much. That is mine now." Ethan Warren probably won't be too happy with that. He has just started a hot lap of his own. Outlap, do apologise. So it will not be hot in any way, shape or form. Jake Moloney about 3/4 of a tenth up on his personal best time, as he's shooting down towards, I want to say turn 4.
Yeah.
Going through the midfield, so he might...
Whoa.
Bit of a swapper, and
Got
he's
a wheel
now
on the turf.
got a wheel on the turf, as my co-commentator says, and he's now a 10th down. I do just want to mention that we have first down through 14th are all within a second of each other, so that is incredibly close.
I just wanted to see if Kurt Stenberg was on a good lap. It looks like he's backed out of it. He had set a purple sector in Sector 1, but he's slowed down. So that's another lap that's gone awry for Kurt Stenberg by the looks of it. So we'll come back to that. Who else is on a good lap? Zach Baker's just started one. Mark Pickett in
Warren.
7th place. We're looking for Warren, who's just gone 0.2 of a second faster than Sean Allen to retake pole position from the Race on Oz driver. Well, that's a statement.
That is absolutely a statement. That is an incredible lap time. I don't think we saw anything like that in Q1. And Sean Allen probably was looking at that time thinking
Faster again.
And Ethan Warren faster again by about a 10th. Sometimes that happens. You smash in a good time, and you're in the groove, and that extra seeing those green numbers just gives you that little bit of extra confidence to break that fraction later and turn in that little bit harder and accelerate that little bit earlier. And he's maintained that 10th advantage through the midfield. He's shooting on down towards turn 6 now. If he manages to hold on to this, then he will extend his advantage over Sean Allen, because Jake Moloney is down in 4th place. Nigel Marneef up into 3rd, and we've only got 2 minutes left to run in this session. Good, clean turn 6 there from Ethan Warren. I reckon he's hung on to it. He has almost exactly, I think, just over a 10th of a second that he had through the second sector. He's hung on to it, and he is now 0.3 clear at the top.
Yeah, he got all of that in the first sector, so whether or not he just was balls to the wall, very committed in turn 1, or whether he just left something on the table on his first flying lap through the first sector, well, your guess is as good as mine, but he's pulled out all the stops, and that is a pretty decent lap there from Ethan Warren. 2 laps now, which would have been good enough for provisional pole, but we now wait to see whether Jake Moloney has an answer. He's just started his lap, and a bit of shenanigans throughout this qualifying session has meant that he hasn't really set his best lap time yet. He was definitely on a good one when he came across his spun teammate Kurt Stenberg at turns 3 and 4. Kurt Stenberg's improved to 10th, but it's not as high up as he would have liked to be. Now, Jake Moloney 2/10 off, 2/10 up on his best, but still a 10th or so down on Ethan Warren.
Yeah, very, very close there. Jake Moloney's going to have to absolutely tear the head off of this Trans-Tasman racing car through the last 2 sectors of this race track. He is now 3.5 tenths up on his PB, half a tenth down on Ethan Warren. This is getting tighter as we go. He is going to have to nail this turn 6. That's a very, very clean turn in. No opposite lock coming out of it. Gets on the pound nice and early. Stairs is rubbing his hands together. He's shooting on down towards the start finish line, and it is not quite. He lost a little bit of time in the last sector. 5 tenths up on his personal best, and still not good enough. He's got to be looking at that just in disbelief.
But what he has done is he's jumped ahead of Sean Allen, knocking him down to the second row. So it will be a front row start from Jake Moloney if no one else betters that time. He's going to have another go. I thought it looked very, very good, the final sector. The final corner was so clean. Maybe he was a tad cautious.
What happened is that Ethan Warren, and I don't think he's going to be bettering his lap time on this particular occasion, Jake Moloney, so he might have to settle for second. What happened is that Ethan Warren bettered his lap time by about a 10th as Jake Moloney was on his hot lap, so he would, if the time Ethan Warren had stayed as it was, then he would have taken that provisional pole position, and he might still do it. He is 200ths up on his personal best and 200ths down on the time by Ethan Warren. He's coming up to some lap traffic. They get well out of the way. That's good. Jake Moloney around turn 6. Nice and early on the power, shooting down towards the start finish line. Crosses the line first. By 700th of a second. My goodness.
10th of a second in it. Unbelievable. It was tit for tat the whole qualifying session. Jake Moloney, Ethan Warren. Jake Moloney gets it in the end by 3/4 of a 10th of a second.
My goodness. Stairs was very excited by that one. Scared the hell out of me. And he's nearly spat his beer everywhere, but he's managed not to do that. So very well done by Jake Moloney and by Stairs and by myself, if I do say so myself. Meanwhile, Ethan Warren not managing to hold on to that first, as we just covered. It's Sean Allen in third position and Thomas McMillan jumping ahead of Nigel Monteith for fourth on the grid. So Nigel Monteith demoted down to the third row with Zach Baker. Thomas McMillan starting from the second row on the grid. Kurt Stenberg, in the end, only good enough for 11th. Stairs. I would have expected him to be way up there.
Well, that gives Jake Moloney a fantastic opportunity to undo the damage of race 1. Can he bring it home and close that points battle back up again? We'll find out after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Round 8 took us to the streets of Townsville, when Ethan Warren continued his run of excellent form to take pole position. But it was championship leader Jake Moloney, newly recruited to Trans-Tasman Racing, who led at the start as his teammate and title rival Kurt Stenberg got to 7th. Moloney led the way until lap 16, when a small error as he came up behind a back marker caused him to lose the lead to Ethan Warren. Stenberg had recovered to 5th place after his poor start and caught the 3rd place battle between Zach Baker and Sean Allen until Sean came into the pits on lap 18, the first of the front runners to pull the trigger. 1 lap later, Jake Moloney came in to try and get an undercut on race leader Ethan Warren. However, it would be a moot point, as Ethan would receive a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. With Warren out of contention, this left Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg in the final 2 podium spots, going side by side for almost a whole lap before Stenberg eventually got by. As the race reached its closing stages, it seemed that all of the major positions had been decided, until a rare safety car period occurred. With the green and white checker rule still in effect, this made the race a couple of laps longer and forced race leader Moloney to come into the pits for a splash and dash, ceding position to Kurt Stenberg, Sean Allen and Zach Baker. On lap 37, the race was restarted for a 1-lap final dash to the line, which saw Kurt Stenberg streak away in the lead while Moloney rounded up Sean Allen and Zach Baker on the run down to turn 2. Chaos unfolded behind, but at the front, Stenberg was able to hold off the final sector attack from Moloney to claim his first victory of the year in bizarre circumstances. Ethan Warren took pole position for race 2 ahead of Kurt Stenberg, as Jake Moloney started from the rear of grid after not setting a lap in qualifying. For the second time of the night, the second place man got the better start as Stenberg led out of turn 2. On lap 5, Ethan Warren was able to make his way past Kurt Stenberg for the lead of the race. Colin Warwick was having a strong run in 3rd place, keeping Sean Allen behind for a number of laps before our second safety car period of the night, which triggered a flurry of activity in the pit lane. Jake Moloney had a terrific opening stint, making his way into the top 10. He would gain more spots as Corey Preston and Zach Baker missed their opportunity to pit before the field was condensed. By the time everything had all shaken out, Moloney found himself in 5th place, attacking Sean Allen after the restart. Moloney was able to get ahead and then dispatched Colin Warwick for 3rd place a few laps later. And the smallest of mistakes from Stenberg opened the door for Moloney, who waltzed through to claim 2nd place. There would be no more changes of position for the major places to the end of the race, and despite a bit of damage to Ethan Warren's Mustang, the Astro Altus eSports driver was still able to bring it home and make it 3 wins from the previous 4 starts.
It happens.
Sorry, guys, about the lack of audio. Thought I did some of my best work there, so unfortunately, F10 sometimes doesn't always unmute my OBS. Very, very sorry about that. Let's quickly take you through the grid in the remaining moments. Jake Moloney is starting ahead of Ethan Warren. Sean Allen behind him. Thomas McMillan in 4th place. Nigel Marneef. Zach Baker. Griffin Gardner. Great qualifying session for him. Mark Pickett starting a little bit further back from what he did in race 1. Brody Steen in 9th. Colin Warwick in 10th. Kurt Stenberg starting out of 11th place ahead of David Nenedick. Matt Lepoitovan will be starting in 13th place ahead of Stephen Birchall. Jay Borg, Will Devonish, Aidan Schultz, Oz Rob, and that is our grid of 18.
Absolutely. So apologies for that there, viewers, but of course you do have our luscious voices for the important part of the race, which is the race start. And we have Jake Moloney there already in his box. He's ready to go. And right at the back of the grid, we've got Ozrob rounding the last corner to find his grid slot. Couple of cars down on race 1. So we've got 18 cars in this race. I imagine it's going to be just as exciting as the first race. Stairs, take it away, mate.
Round 2 of this battle from the front row between Ethan Warren and Jake Moloney. Last time Ethan Warren got the whole shot, but Jake Moloney had a better start. It's pretty much even from the front too. And behind them, it's going to be Sean Allen having a look down the inside, but Ethan Warren rat-a-tat-tat on the back of Jake Moloney, but Jake Moloney's got a better start. He's got the lead into turn 1. Under a lot of pressure, though, from Ethan Warren coming through turn 2. The top 4 are as they started. Let's have a look at what happened further back. Zach Baker made a spot up. Lots of side-by-side action as they go down to turn 3. And Nigel Marneef has lost a position there to Zach Baker. Thomas McMillan's making the move up ahead of Sean Allen into 3rd place. Great job there. And Ethan Warren's not letting Jake Moloney go without some sort of battle. 0.2 of a second as they go down to turn 3. 4.
Absolutely. There is a big traffic jam behind, with Kurt Stenberg making up 3 positions around the outside of said traffic jam. Meanwhile, we have David Nenedick, one of the big movers, up 4 positions from his start into 8th position. So very well done from him. We've got parity at the front with Jake Moloney leading over Ethan Warren. Kurt Stenberg now into 10th, so losing a position there to Brody Steen. And David Nenedick just under increasing amounts of pressure as Kurt Stenberg looks at the inside on turn 1, is not going to have an opportunity to do it, but his overtaking spot of choice in race 1 was down into turn 3, so I imagine he's going to be trying to hook up a perfect run out of turn 2 here, which he does. He got a little bit off the track, but he managed to keep enough pace on it. I think he's going to have a dive down the inside. And
speaking of dives down the inside, that's Ethan Warren. And Jake Moloney having a bit of a squabble there as Thomas McMillan gets all out of shape down into turn 3. Sorry to cut across you there, Madbird, but that was Ethan Warren for the lead of the race. Let's catch the replay.
Absolutely. So Ethan Warren came from approximately the length of the Great Wall of China behind, goes straight across the front of Jake Moloney. Very good awareness of his car there from Jake Moloney to he just held off his turn in for a split second and managed to cut across the back of Ethan Warren as he locked up and went straight across behind him. He'll have a nice flat spot on at least one of his tyres from that, I would expect, which will not be helping his pace. And he is now the better part of a second down on Jake Moloney, which will be very, very good news for Trans-Tasman fans out there. Also good news for Trans-Tasman guys out there will be Kurt Stenberg making the position up on Brody Steen and David Nenedick, as David Nenedick went deep, tapped Brody Steen a little bit, and Kurt Stenberg was the beneficiary. So Kurt Stenberg up into 3rd place. Sorry, goodness me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Up into 8th place, which is a 3 with a couple of extra lines. And he's shooting off after Mark Pickett, who is currently in 7th.
Yeah, 3rd place, he'd be pretty happy with that right now. He's trying to make his way as many positions up as he possibly can. Currently in 8th place, but with Jake Moloney leading, that championship battle, as it stands, has closed up to 6 points. Now, 6 points, that is still in favour of Kurt Stenberg, but that just goes to show how quickly things can turn around, whereas Kurt Stenberg had it out to 66 points at the end of race 1. The result, if it were to stay this way, and I say that with a huge amount of emphasis on the word if, is it's much closer. Let's just put it that way. But Ethan Warren has responded now to Jake Moloney's pace. Fastest lap of the race on the previous occasion of a 107.2, and that was 0.4 of a second faster than Jake Moloney.
Absolutely blistering pace there from the Astro Altus Esports car there of Ethan Warren. As Jake Moloney has a little bit of a lockup, goes a little bit deep at turn 3, isn't going to be enough for Ethan Warren to make a position, but just showing a little bit of the strain he's under potentially. And I want to do whatever the opposite of a commentator's curse is by saying that I hope that he certainly does not have any of the internet issues he had in race 1. I've mentioned it, so now it can't happen. And hopefully he manages to hold on that position. We see a good battle between himself and Ethan Warren that we were kind of robbed of in race 1. As further back down the field, we have the Zach Baker racing car of Zach Baker right on the back of Sean Allen, who has gone backwards from the start into 4th position. Thomas McMillan, the beneficiary of that last position on the podium, up into 3rd place. But Sean Allen definitely has not let him go. He is right on the back of him, and Zach Baker keeping him company.
Well, we get some good racing here at the Paperclip. I wonder if a Bulldog clip would make a good racetrack. Let's move on from that very swiftly indeed. So, Jake Moloney now, the gap between himself and Ethan Warren is down to 0.4 of a second. And my last statement, as my commentator tries to imagine what a racetrack that looks like a Bulldog clip would look like, that's the difference between Ethan Warren and Jake Moloney's last lap time, 0.4 of a second. So Ethan Warren is very much in this, and with the pit stop, that certainly brings another interesting element to this battle for the win. Kurt Stenberg still sat in 8th, so it's still 6 points separating them in the championship if it were to finish like this, but Ethan Warren is going to have something to say about that, mark my words. He's got a very, very good exit off of turn 6 here. I don't think he's going to have a Great Wall of China style lunge down into turn 1 because the braking zone just isn't long enough as it is in turn 3, but my goodness gracious me, is he close.
He is right on the back of him. There is nary AB's dick between them, and Jake Moloney has a little bit of a hairy exit on the exit of turn 2. I'm getting very excited as they're shooting down towards turn 3. Ethan Warren has the inside brace a little bit later. He is right down. Got him. Yes, he has. Although he loses a little bit of time, he gets up on the curb. Jake Moloney all over the back of him, but I don't think there's going to be enough time for him to have a go down into turn 4. He'd have to take a very, very brave lunge. He looks at it. He doesn't end up doing it. That was probably the wise decision there from Jake Moloney. Calm head on young shoulders as he is now sets about chasing after Ethan Warren, because Ethan Warren, not above making mistakes as we saw earlier, just needs to pressure him into it, Stairs.
Well, that was a much cleaner move as my commentator reacts to Ethan Warren going a little bit deep at turn 6, but they do have different lines. I've noticed, especially during qualifying, that Jake Moloney likes that sort of carry the speed through the apex, rounded line through that corner, whereas Ethan Warren likes to square it off, get the car straightened up, and a sharp, almost diagonal exit off the corner. That was a little bit wide, though, for Ethan Warren coming off turn 2. He's pushing so hard to try and make a gap on Jake Moloney. Meanwhile, behind him, Thomas McMillan is coming under a little bit of pressure, more than a little bit of pressure from Sean Allen, who's trying to drive around the outside of him at turn 3. And there's a lot of other cars buying into this as Sean Allen gets all out of shape on the exit there. That gives Thomas McMillan a little bit of breathing space. Can there be an attack from behind from Zach Baker? Nigel Manif and Mark Pickett behind are also looking at this with rapt attention, because they stand to gain from this if there are any incidents whatsoever.
Not just them, but Kurt Stenberg is nary a second and a bit behind Nigel Manif, currently lingering in 8th place. He is approaching this little pack of cars. You can see him there in the back of the shot. He is approaching this gaggle of cars between 7th and 3rd with all the predaciousness of a shark approaching a nude beach, I imagine, with a large amount of people in the water and close together. That was a tortured metaphor, and I do apologize.
Have you ever been to Maslin's Beach? There's no one there. Apart from old farts.
I was about to say, there are people there, just not the people you'd like to see at a nude beach. And I have it on good authority that my godfather goes there, and you definitely don't want to see... Tony Quick.
Oh my God, father.
Oh, speaking of godfathers, Jake Moloney nearly contacts with Ethan Warren through turns 4 and 5, manages to keep out of it, and that gap has not come down much at all, about half a second. You're right, Stairs. Jake Moloney seems to have a lot more pace on the entry of that turn 6, but then Ethan Warren just shoots off when it comes to the throttle zone. So very interesting comparison.
Very, very interesting comparison indeed. Just like your comparison with nude beaches. If anything, Eurotrip, that was probably the most apt depiction of anything that was in that movie, was the depiction of nude beaches. As we get a little bit of a wobble there for Thomas McMillan out of turn 2. Sean Allen, is he going to pounce down to turn 3? It's a long run, but he just doesn't seem to have enough top speed. Thomas McMillan recovers splendidly from a mid-corner wobble and somehow manages to hang on to third place. Sean Allen gets up underneath him out of turn 3, though. What an opportunistic move. We know how strong he is under brakes from Townsville. But round the outside of turn 4, can it be done? No, it can't. Not if you bang into the guy. Gracious me, that was a bit rude there from Thomas McMillan. And behind him, Zach Baker is going side by side. He's trying to take advantage of this opportunity, but he gets bumped by Mark Pickett there, and they go side by side through the final corner. Really hard to know where to look because they're ahead of them. Thomas McMillan's gone wide yet again, having huge amounts of trouble with rear grip. It's again side by side between them down to turn 1, but the guy with the inside line will have the advantage. Oh, Willie! Huge moment there. Thomas McMillan is out in the boonies, and he's lost 5 positions. Such a disappointing way to lose out in that battle.
Oh my goodness, very well done, Stairs, covering all of that. That was a tight fight between Sean Allen and Thomas McMillan between turns 3 and turns 1 of the next lap.
Gracious!
As it looks like Mark Pickett's taken a very late lunge there down on Zach Baker. He's got the position done. I'm not sure if Zach Baker will be too happy about that. That looked like it came a minute late and about $65 short. If you're asking me. Kurt Stenberg, meanwhile, has made that position on Thomas McMillan after his error, and Nigel Marnie whilst we've been watching. And Kurt Stenberg now up the inside of Zach Baker.
Sorry, Jake Moloney has got ahead of Ethan Warren.
Jake Moloney's made the move for first position over Ethan Warren down into turn 3, by the looks of it. So very well done there from Jake Moloney, as Ethan Warren now needs to set about trying to get that position back. Kurt Stenberg up into 5th place.
Wow.
He's managed to make that position on Zach Baker. Had a very messy run out of turn 5. And Thomas McMillan is latching onto his coattails, trying to follow him back up to the positions he just lost between Mark Pickett in 4th and Sean Allen up in 3rd place once again. But while they've been squabbling, they have lost about 7 seconds, or the better part thereof, to the leading pair of Jake Moloney and Ethan Warren. Very, very, very tight as Thomas McMillan tries to have a go down on Kurt Stenberg.
Now, Madbird, do you remember Thomas McMillan versus Kurt Stenberg in Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin? That was a battle that raged on for about 20 laps. Are we set for round 2 of that fantastic battle? So let's have a look now at the battle up ahead between Mark Pickett and Sean Allen. That seems to have spread out a little bit. In the meantime, we've had our first pit stop of the race. Nigel Marnie came in a lap ago and the first to pull the trigger on the pit stops.
Yeah, probably a good time to do it. He just lost that position to Kurt Stenberg, so he was going to be stuck following along behind him. So better to get out of the way, get your pit stop done, and then you can get some clear air. So I applaud that decision from Nigel Marnie. Hopefully it all works out for him, as we've got Kurt Stenberg right here behind Mark Pickett and Sean Allen. That gap has come down exponentially the last couple of laps. Mark Pickett with some incredible pace. He's got a great run out of turn 2. Might have a go down into turn 3. It looks like he's thinking about it. He's braking. He's on the inside. He's braking. He's not quite able to get it done. A little bit of a lock up there from Mark Pickett and a little bit of a tap there on the back of Sean Allen, but nothing doing. The positions stay the same.
It's not over yet, though. You can guarantee that. Mark Pickett proving that he is up to it in this level, having a lot of racing tonight, to be fair, coming over from Super 2. And here tonight, he's proven that he belongs up here with the big boys. Now, Sean Allen takes a lot to get past him quite easily. We saw in Townsville that he was master under late braking. And that's proving again to be the case. Not really a racetrack that's that dependent on late braking. But, I mean, he's still obviously in third place. That goes to show just how quick he is among different types of racetracks. Street circuits and circuits like this, fast-flowing ones. So, Mark Pickett. Kurt Stenberg goes off the track at the exit of turn 2. Got a bit of a gap, though, on Thomas McMillan, who looks like he's under a bit of pressure from Zach Baker behind him, who goes to the inside, but Thomas McMillan covers that off, and he gets collided into for his troubles and nearly took out Kurt Stenberg. Let's have a look at that one again, Madbird.
That was Zach Baker. He went for the inside. Thomas McMillan covered it off. Zach Baker tried to go even more inside than that, and there just wasn't enough track for it. And then when it came to the braking, just straight into the back of Thomas McMillan. Very good avoiding action there from Thomas McMillan not to take out Kurt Stenberg. But I imagine there'll be words exchanged between himself and Zach Baker at the end of the race.
Now, that's a tricky one. Very hard to tell from the angle that we were looking at. But was that Thomas McMillan moving unnecessarily under brakes? Or was that Zach Baker rear-ending another car? And was it him at fault? It's very hard to tell, isn't it?
It is. I'm just having a quick look here at the replay. For my eyes, it looks like Thomas McMillan goes very early to the inside, and then he just moves across in the braking zone a little bit more. Zach Baker probably was a little bit optimistic, thinking that there was a car's width on the inside in the first place. But Thomas McMillan definitely did move across a little bit more in the braking zone. Oh, that is a tricky one. Just 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess. But that won't be helping out Thomas McMillan, who's now down into 8th place. He's lost about... What has he lost?
Oh no, we've lost him. We've Mark Pickett spun out of turn 4. And 3, sorry. Let's catch a replay of that. He was having a battle. Forgot that I need to have a microphone in front of my face to be able to be heard by you guys. Here he was. And the battle with Sean Allen, I think he outbroke himself there, went very, very deep, and then onto the marbles. Kurt Stenberg, great avoiding action there, drives around the outside. That's one of his favourite corners tonight, isn't it? And Mark Pickett rejoins in 8th place behind Thomas McMillan, so that becomes the battle of the guys who've had some issues.
It does. Very, very well said. Kurt Stenberg from all this, ending up in 4th position.
And Griffin in 6th.
And Griffin Gardner up into 6th place.
That's not bad.
Very, very well done there from the man with the excellent name. Mark Pickett now chasing after him.
Ethan Warren's got ahead of Jake Moloney.
Ethan Warren has made the position up into turn 3 again, I'm guessing. That seems to be the overtaking position, the overtaking place for this particular race. He's gone a little bit wide there through turn 4 and a little bit of a wiggle, and he's managed to hold on to the position. But as you can see, just simple as you like, a little bit of a lock-up as he took the position, but managed to hold on to it. So very well done there for Ethan Warren. And Jake Moloney now with it all to do once again. Might be worth pulling into the pits for Jake Moloney.
Yeah, we're approaching that zone. I'm surprised we haven't seen more people pull the trigger after Nigel Marneef went in a few laps ago, as we're seeing Kurt Stenberg on our other monitor come into the pits. So that's probably a good idea from his point of view. Try and get a bit of an undercut advantage. But yeah, turn 3 was the point where Ethan Warren pulled the trigger, and it was a much nicer maneuver than the one that he attempted earlier on when he came as far back from... I think you described it as being about as far back as the Great Wall of China. That was more like the Great Wall of China after about only a decade's worth of work on it. And as such, he was able to get it pulled up in time.
Absolutely. Very well done. It looks as if Mark Pickett's made that position up on Griffin Gardner.
Yep.
I keep wanting to say Gryffindor. Mark Pickett up into 5th place. It looks as if Ethan Warren has maintained that position over Jake Moloney. My co-commentator making some very strange and alarming noises in my left ear. That made me second guess myself for a second. I was like, oh my god, that position has changed. Wait, no, it hasn't. My good, I was going to say, it was a very, very short pit stop for Kurt Stenberg, so I do hope he hasn't had an issue where he hasn't done his pit menu correctly, because that seemed like a short stop for what is meant to be the rest of the race. We've got Ozrob down in 17th place having a spin, so it is definitely not the race for War Race Engineering with his teammate Will Devonish currently down in 12th. And we've had a few more pit stops as my co-commentator quickly, frantically writes them down. Did you get them all, mate?
Yeah, Zach Baker and Thomas McMillan have pitted from I think it was 3rd and 4th at the time. I'll wait to see. It's very, I'm not keeping up, and I shouldn't admit that as commentator. But anyway, Ethan Warren, that's all you really need to know, leads this race from Jake Moloney by 0.3 of a second. When are they going to pit?
Oh, Ethan Warren now.
And Jake Moloney has stayed on the racetrack. So Jake Moloney stays out. Ethan Warren comes into the pits. Now, last round, he got a drive-through penalty for spinning in the pit lane. He won't want to be doing that. Jake Moloney is going to want the lap of his life. He doesn't have to worry about any traffic. The car ahead of him is Oz Rob, and he's a solid 10 seconds behind. We've had a bit of incident in the pit lane there between Ethan Warren and Mark Pickett by the looks of it, but nothing to be too worried about as Ethan Warren rejoins the racetrack. Now, here's where it tells you if you get a drive-through penalty. He's learned his lesson from last round, Madbird.
Fantastic. Glad to hear it. The thing that I was screaming about was that Mark Pickett pulled into his pit box, which I believe is right behind Ethan Warren's, and he came in at an incredible rate of knots. And if Ethan Warren had started moving about half a second later, I reckon he would have collected the Astro Altus Esports driver. Jake Moloney with about a 14.5 second advantage over second place man Griffin Gardner as he comes around turn 6. Will he be pulling into the pits? No. He remains out for another lap. So Jake Moloney obviously feeling comfortable, like he's in a bit of a groove, and wanting to try to take some fresher tyres into the second part of the race as he shoots on down into turn 1. We have Griffin Gardner up into second place.
Griffin Gardner up into second place. Well, that goes to show that a good name will get you everywhere. Thomas McMillan's coming into the pits as well as we speak. And, well, I'm just wondering with some of these guys, as Colin Warwick also pits from third place, that with these... I'm desperately trying to think of what the sentence was that I was going to say. iRacing, that's what I was going to say. iRacing, you can drive through other cars in the pits in iRacing. Some of these guys are from iRacing, as we have some sorts of, some shenanigans going on in the pits, cars nearly hitting each other, if I can finally get my point out. Here in Automobilista, people are forgetting that you can't drive through other cars in the pits.
Perfect example.
And that is Exhibit A, ladies and gentlemen, is people forgetting that.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what Thomas McMillan was expecting to happen there. Just went straight into him. It was never going to move out of the way. So I imagine that Mark Pickett, or Colin Warwick, I believe it was, who was in front of him, will definitely not be particularly happy with that treatment. Jake Moloney at the front still has not pit. He's got 16 and a bit seconds over Jeff Gardner.
Jeff?
Sorry, Griffin Gardner. Jeff is a much more average name.
Yeah.
Ethan Warren is...
That's what the sorting hat said. You're in Jeff door.
Ethan Warren is 30.5 seconds behind Jake Moloney. If Jake Moloney were to make his pit stop now, I think that would be pretty close. But I think that would come out to the advantage of Ethan Warren, and that gap is coming down. It's now 30.1, 30.0. Those tires are well on the outs for Jake Moloney, and it's now under 30 seconds, the gap to Ethan Warren. So surely he's going to be pitting this lap, I would very much expect, and he is.
Well, I think that will be a good thing for him in the back end of this race, because it means that he'll have very, very fresh tires. His pit box very, very soon after the pit entry line. So he is getting new tyres now. Let's watch Griff Gardner. He's going to take the lead of the race because he has stayed out for one more lap. So in his first race, or first round for Automobilista Australia, Automobilista Supercars Australia, takes the lead of the race. But we're interested now on Ethan Warren coming out of the final corner now as Jake Moloney rejoins the race. He's going to get ahead of Ethan Warren here. Ethan Warren's going to come up on hot tyres, but Jake Moloney's going to have newer tyres, and Jake Moloney has taken the lead of the race through the pit stops.
That is an overcut. If ever I saw one, I believe that's the term. Griffin Gardner currently in the lead provisionally, but that won't remain. He will be needing to take a pit stop at some stage. Jake Moloney coming across a good 1.5 seconds ahead of Ethan Warren, so he has extended a decent advantage, and he's going to have younger tyres on through to the end of the race. I did say Ethan Warren was a couple of tyres over the blend line at the start of this lap. I'm not sure whether it's all 4 tyres have to be over for it to be deemed as track extending, or any tyres at all, but might be something he's going to have to watch to make sure that he doesn't get pinged with a penalty. That is not what we want to see. Sean Allen currently in 4th position, provisional 3rd, and Kurt Stenberg currently in provisional 4th position, only 7/10 of a second, and as I say that, he locks up and is now over a second behind Sean Allen in 4th. So that position is very much contested, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would back Sean Allen in, to be fair, but I would also back Kurt Stenberg to close up on Sean Allen and make him fight for that 3rd place. But we've seen Sean resist the challenge from Kurt Stenberg on numerous occasions before, so I'm having an each-way bet here. I think it's possible that both of them could finish on the podium, said the fence sitter. So Jake Moloney is going to be the net race leader when Griffin Gardner eventually makes his pit stop. But Griffin Gardner now enjoying the race lead for as long as it lasts. He will have to come into the pits, but it's not going to be on this lap by the looks of it. So he's going around again. He's going to have fantastic tyres at the end of this race. And what a debut for the young man. I don't know if he's young. He might be old, but, you said you hoped that he would figure in this race because he's got such a fun name. And that has come to fruition.
It absolutely has. It has come to vegetable-ition. And as we say that, he goes very wide through turn 2, but manages to keep hold of it. He's got a 10-second advantage over Jake Moloney, and that's coming down lap by lap. So I imagine that once he has his pit stop, he will be coming out, I hesitate to say 8th, but I reckon that might be the case. 8th or 9th, I reckon. It was just under 30 seconds for Jake Moloney. He's come out a second and a bit ahead of Ethan Warren. So if we assume a 29-second stop...
Less fuel.
Yeah, less fuel. Yeah, that's very true. Griffin Gardner has managed to eke out this fuel load up to lap 23, and he might be going around again. Let's see. He's coming into turn 6 and turns in, and he's going wide. I reckon he's going in. Yep, there we go. So lap 23, he finally throws the white flag and dives into the pits. But he's going to have incredibly fresh tyres for the last 10 laps of this race. Jake Moloney. I'm so used to seeing this car with Kurt Stenberg in it. Promoted into the lead of the race with Ethan Warren quickly chasing him down.
And sets the fastest lap of the race, as you said that, 107.0. Ethan Warren wasn't too shabby on the previous lap either, 107.1, which was his best lap of the race. But he sits 1.2 seconds adrift, and he's got it all to do. Just dropping 0.5 of a second here, 0.5 of a second there. It's very much in Jake Moloney's court right now. Ethan Warren's going to have to take the fight to Jake Moloney. Sean Allen now is coming under renewed pressure from Kurt Stenberg. After that lock-up a few laps ago, Kurt Stenberg has closed another 0.2 on the previous lap. It's coming down in little bits and pieces. Not leaps and bounds, but little bits and pieces. So Kurt Stenberg, he'd be pretty happy with 3rd. I think that would consolidate his championship lead that he gained in the early part of tonight's events. Behind him, Colin Warwick and Griffin Gardner, having rejoined back in 9th, has lost 9th position to Colin Warwick, drops down to 10th. By gracious me, he's found himself in a little battle. Once those tyres get up to temperature, though, I expect him to be very, very racy indeed.
I would definitely hope so. He's got his teammate Thomas McMillan right behind him in 11th place. Got a watching brief on this little battle between himself and Colin Warwick. As you say, Jake Moloney, Ethan Warren's going to have to make this happen. I don't think Jake Moloney's going to put a foot wrong at this stage. I have now 100% confirmed that will happen. 1.2, 1.3 seconds has been the gap since Jake Moloney came out of the pits. So Ethan Warren not managing to cut into that advantage, and his tyres are a couple of laps older, so that won't be helping. We did have Rob DNF at some stage. Not sure if we did catch that. And we got Will Devonish down in 14th place. So not a good race for the War Race Engineering team. But currently looking like a decent race for the Zero Esports Racing team. If they can, not take each other out, get up ahead of Colin Warwick. And
what the hell?
What has happened there? Griffin Gardner gone directly off the track, and he's come to a stop. That might be and he's DNF. That must be a out of game issue, presumably. Not sure what happened there. It looks completely innocuous. Coming out of turn 3, and then he just turns off the track and brakes to a stop. All right then.
Well, thank goodness that didn't affect anyone else. What an unfortunate way for Griffin Gardner's night to come to an end. He's proved today, if nothing else, that he belongs here, and he led for a number of laps. So congratulations there, as we see on the other monitor, Kurt Stenberg nearly going into the back of Brody Steen. Not Brody Steen, Sean Allen. What am I talking about? Brody Steen. Is he even here tonight? Yeah, yes. He is in 8th. Been a little bit of anonymous down there. Still in the top 10 and collecting good points for Race on Oz, but Kurt Stenberg has arrived, it's fair to say, on the back of Sean Allen, and has arrived and with the intent of contesting 3rd place. He wants a podium, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, he does. And he is all over the back of Sean Allen. Little puff of smoke from the rear tyres. He's managed to pull it up in time, but he is right on the gearbox of Sean Allen. Under 0.3 of a second between the two of them. Not even a car length. He's not going to be able to have a go down into turn 1, but we know that turn 3 is his favourite spot for an overtake. He isn't going to have a go. There's not really an opportunity to go down the inside or the outside of turn 2 because it's such a wide corner. But he gets a decent run off of turn 3 and he's closing that gap. He is going to shoot for the inside, I reckon, and he does down the inside at turn 3. Can he pull it up in time? He on the brakes, on the anchors, turning in. Sean Allen trying to close the door and managing to. Kurt Stenberg not managing to get down the inside. Very well defended from Sean Allen.
Sean Allen must be about the best gentleman under brakes in this series. Fantastic. You would have thought any other guy, he would have thought he'd had him, but Sean Allen was able to go deep enough to then go around the outside of Kurt Stenberg, which gave him the inside for the next corner. And now he's got a bit of a reprieve. Kurt Stenberg's dropped back a couple of car lengths, which he then closes up under brakes. But fantastic job there from Sean Allen to make Kurt Stenberg sweat on a little bit longer. Every lap that he keeps Kurt Stenberg behind him, the belief will grow.
Yeah, and every lap he keeps him behind, that's one less lap that Kurt Stenberg has to make this position. We've only got 5 laps left in this race. Through turn 2, Kurt Stenberg closes up a little bit as Sean Allen looks like he needed to tap the brakes mid-corner. And Kurt Stenberg is now closing on the back of Sean Allen down into turn 3. Down to the inside again, is not going to have a go. Too far back this time around as he goes very deep. I assume to get a better run out of the corner. A little bit of opposite lock, and it's all gone. It's all gone, ladies and gentlemen. He is now 0.4 down on Sean Allen. I say all gone. That'll probably be back by the end of the lap, but that is just he's trying everything he can to get past him. But Sean Allen, the Iceman, under pressure.
Sirap on the battle at the lead of this race. Jake Moloney has eked out another couple of tenths of a second on Ethan Warren on the previous lap. He now leads by 2.5 seconds. So I would say that it's probably his to lose from this point on. We're going to focus on this battle for third between Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the closest battle on track in the top 10. Kurt Stenberg has dropped back a couple tenths through the last couple of corners and the first couple of corners on this particular lap. He's now 5 tenths, about half a second down on Sean Allen, shooting down towards turn 3. He is not going to be close enough to have a go unless he takes a dive from something that's longer than the Great Wall of China's behind. And he chooses, of course, not to do that. Consummate gentleman racer. He's just got to set about trying to bring down that gap and have another go down into turn 3, I would imagine, on a future lap. But he's running out of opportunities to do so. We're on lap 29 of 33 Stairs. Where the hell has that gone?
Yeah, it's gone pretty quickly. And someone who will be thankful of that is Colin Warwick, who's had an absolute night to forget. has become the latest addition to our list of retirements tonight. And his fourth place will be coming under threat, I should think, from Sean Allen tonight with that retirement. And Sean Allen getting some decent points with a podium finish in race 1 and a potential podium finish in race 2.
We say potential because what you can see there is Kurt Stenberg basically tonguing the back of that Race on Oz racing car through turns 1 and 2. And he's going to have an almighty run, I would expect. Dips a tire on the grass, and it doesn't affect his pace though. He is going to be on the back of Sean Allen into the braking zone, but not close enough. Can't get up alongside to have a go. He seems to brake that little bit later and go a bit deep. Manages to hold on to it this time. Doesn't get any opposite lock, and so he should have a little bit more pace down this short blast. But it is such a short blast. There's not much you can do along these short blasts between turns 3 and 4 and turns 5 and 6 to get any extra real time. It seems to be turn 6 where Kurt Stenberg is gaining all the time on Sean Allen.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg can't afford any silly buggers here because Zach Baker's only about a second and a half behind, and any incident between these two, and Zach Baker will slot right through. He'll
slot right through as Kurt Stenberg had a little bit of mid-corner oversteer around turn 6, so he's dropped back another couple of tenths. I don't think this one's going to happen for him. I think he's just going to have to. He's going to have to try to just settle down and make sure that he doesn't put it off in his attempts to get this position.
Well, I'm going to do my patented let's make something happen in this race move and do a bit of a stock take. With 2 laps remaining, Ethan Warren not being able to do anything about Jake Moloney. It's now out to a 3.5 second advantage for Jake Moloney. So Ethan Warren will be settling for second as Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg continue to battle over that final spot on the podium. Ahead of Zach Baker, another good haul of points for the ZB Racing driver. Nigel Manif, another driver who's proving himself to be a solid points getter race after race. Mark Pickett, it's been a great debut from him as well. After his podium in race 1, here in 7th in race 2, I think you'd be pretty pleased with that. Brody Steen in 8th place, ahead of Thomas McMillan. He's had a bit of a lonely old race towards the back end of tonight. Jay Borg rounds out the top 10, ahead of Aidan Schultz, who's got a bit of a battle on his hands to keep 11th, actually, with Will Devonish and David Nenedick behind him. Matt Lepoitovan, another Stealth Penrite racing car, down there in 14th place, is trying to catch up to those guys. He's the last man. He's the last man in this race, but there's a lot to play for there. He could find himself up in an 11th if the battle ahead goes awry.
He definitely could. Kurt Stenberg touching the back of Sean Allen through turn 3. I thought he was going to have a run on him that lap. He has closed up over the first couple of corners, but just not quite close enough. So he's going to have to pin it all on the last lap. We are on lap 32 of 33 here as Kurt Stenberg trails Sean Allen through. Oh, and a huge little moment there. Huge little moment being being an oxymoron as he mounted the curb. It had a little bit of opposite lock. Sean Allen very slow through turn 6. And Kurt Stenberg is right on the back of him. That front splitter is right underneath the rear of Sean Allen's car. Less than a car length between the two of them as they shoot into the last, the first corner for the last time in this race. Lap 33, Kurt Stenberg has got an incredible run through turn 2. This is going to be his opportunity, I think. He keeps his foot right in it. He is right on the back of Sean Allen. Sean Allen going to go defensive? No, he remains on the racing line. So it is Kurt Stenberg to go up the inside. He does, breaks very early and just is not close enough to make that position stick. So Sean Allen defending very well, Stairs.
Well, once again, Sean Allen's strength under brakes saves him from a move up the inside by Kurt Stenberg. There'll be a couple more opportunities for Kurt Stenberg. But we've got to turn our attention now to Jake Moloney, who's coming around the final corner. He's going to claim his first win he hasn't won in the last 2 rounds, so his first win in 3 rounds for Jake Moloney. He'll be happy with that. He won't reclaim the championship lead, but he'll reclaim a lot of points. Ethan Warren finishes in 2nd place, and behind them, Sean Allen hangs on. Kurt Stenberg wiggling his way through the final corner, threw everything at him, but Sean Allen claims 2 podium positions at Queensland Raceway. He'll be happy with that. Kurt Stenberg threw everything at him. Zach Baker in 5th place. Nigel Maneve comes home in 6th, ahead of Mark Pickett, with Brody Steen coming out the final corner now, second of the two Race on Oz drivers, and he claims 8th place with a fair old margin to Thomas McMillan, who will be in 9th place. Jay Borg will round out the top 10. Behind him, Will Devonish, David Nenedick. Now, this is going on behind them. This is Aiden Schultz losing 2 positions on the final corner, but he'll get up the inside of David Nenedick, and there's all sorts of contact there. Aiden Schultz spun round out the final corner. He won't be happy with that. He's going to finish last in this race, but probably didn't deserve to, in fairness. What a bit of a messy finish to that race.
Yeah, that was a little bit of argy-bargy that we don't really like to see, but oh well, it's happened, and Aiden Schultz becomes the last runner across the line out of the 14 that finished. Of course, our DNFs: Colin Warwick, Griffin Gardner with the excellent name Oz Rob, and Stephen Birchall for the Monster Mustang Racing. I'm just happy I can say that without tripping over myself. And Jake Moloney taking a dominant win in the end. He just, Ethan Warren had nothing to answer for after those pit stops. And Jake Moloney, despite his win, with Kurt Stenberg coming home in 4th, is now 36 points behind Kurt Stenberg in the championship. That is how much a DNF hurts you, my friends. And as you can see, Jake Moloney, Ethan Warren, and Sean Allen lining up on the start-finish straight. A little bit of a jaunty angle, it must be said. Not exactly flush with the racing line, but regardless, it looks a treat. Well, it doesn't, but you know, they try. Not sure what else I could say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to point towards north or something. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, that is our top 3, and they're posing for the photos now. I imagine we'll start to see some donuts in a few short minutes. Oh no, one of them Kurt decides to go back to the pits, apparently. He's actually joined us in broadcast, so we'll have a bit of a chance to have a chat to him in a moment. But gracious me, what a series of events we've had tonight, Madbird.
Absolutely. Race 2, an absolute cracker, and race 1 definitely not a slouch by any means. That was a fantastic evening at the Paperclip. Very much enjoyed, and I imagine that Ethan Warren and Jake Moloney will be of a similar opinion. Very, very tight racing between the two of them.
That's right. Well, we can have a bit of a breath of fresh air now. Just have a bit of a think about that. Usually we have a bit of a break here, but we've got Kurt Stenberg with us now, so let's have a bit of a chat to him prior to everyone else jumping into the broadcast. Kurt, it was an interesting night for you. You didn't finish on the podium, but you reclaimed the championship lead, so that's something to be pleased about. Yeah, well, first of all, missing qualifying for race 1, what happened there? Oh, desperate luck. Well, rules are rules. If you don't make qualifying at the start of the survey, you can't participate. But I bet you weren't expecting to make all those positions. Well, I'm sure you were expecting to make positions up during the race, but with Jake Moloney having technical issues, it would appear, claiming the lead of the championship in that race. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll hope to chat a bit more, and we will see you then. Anyway.
Our live coverage of the Automobilista Supercars Championship will be back shortly. For more information about the Automobilista Supercars Championship, including race results and official championship points, Don't forget to visit the Automobilista Supercars Facebook and Instagram pages for all the latest news and results. To enhance your watching experience, you can follow all of the live timing for each race at rsmclanau.liveraces.com.
Welcome to the previous round recap, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. Round 8 took us to the streets of Townsville, when Ethan Warren continued his run of excellent form to take pole position. But it was championship leader Jake Moloney, newly recruited to Trans-Tasman Racing, who led at the start as his teammate and title rival Kurt Stenberg got to 7th. Moloney led the way until lap 16, when a small error as he came up behind a back marker caused him to lose the lead to Ethan Warren. Stenberg had recovered to 5th place after his poor start and caught the 3rd place battle between Zach Baker and Sean Allen until Sean came into the pits on lap 18, the first of the front runners to pull the trigger. 1 lap later, Jake Moloney came in to try and get an undercut on race leader Ethan Warren. However, it would be a moot point as Ethan would receive a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. With Warren out of contention, this left Sean Allen and Kurt Stenberg in the final 2 podium spots, going side by side for almost a whole lap before Stenberg eventually got by. As the race reached its closing stages, it seemed that all of the major positions had been decided until a rare safety car period occurred. With the green and white checker rule still in effect, this made the race a couple of laps longer and forced race leader Moloney to come into the pits for a splash and dash, ceding position to Kurt Stenberg, Sean Allen and Zach Baker. On lap 37, the race was restarted for a 1-lap final dash to the line, which saw Kurt Stenberg streak away in the lead while Moloney rounded up Sean Allen and Zach Baker on the run down to turn 2. Chaos unfolded behind, but at the front, Stenberg was able to hold off the final sector attack from Moloney to claim his first victory of the year in bizarre circumstances. Ethan Warren took pole position for race 2 ahead of Kurt Stenberg as Jake Moloney started from the rear of grid after not setting a lap in qualifying. For the second time of the night, the second place man got the better start as Stenberg led out of turn 2. On lap 5, Ethan Warren was able to make his way past Kurt Stenberg for the lead of the race. Colin Warwick was having a strong run in 3rd place, keeping Sean Allen behind for a number of laps before our second safety car period of the night, which triggered a flurry of activity in the pit lane. Jake Moloney had a terrific opening stint, making his way into the top 10. He would gain more spots as Corey Preston and Zach Baker missed their opportunity to pit before the field was condensed. By the time everything had all shaken out, Moloney found himself in 5th place, attacking Sean Allen after the restart. Moloney was able to get ahead and then dispatched Colin Warwick for 3rd place a few laps later. And the smallest of mistakes from Stenberg opened the door for Moloney, who waltzed through to claim 2nd place. There would be no more changes of position for the major places to the end of the race, and despite a bit of damage to Ethan Warren's Mustang, the Astro Altus eSports driver was still able to bring it home and make it 3 wins from the previous 4 starts.
Welcome back everyone to Ipswich for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Round 9. We're back and we're going to have a bit of a chat to some of the protagonists in tonight's events. And starting off with Kurt Stenberg, who we did have a bit of a chat to prior to the break, but some audio issues on our side. Apologies for that. Just to reiterate what we were talking about before the break, Kurt, you didn't make qualifying 1. Can you rehash the reasons behind that?
Sorry guys, we looked.
We'll just pass on what Kurt said. Unfortunately, we're still adminning Super 2 race, and unfortunately that meant that he missed the start of qualifying for race number 1. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've been able to rectify the issue with the audio on the channel with the Discord service. So we'll ask the questions and then we'll
transmit the answers. So let's just quickly go to our race winner for race 2, Jake Moloney. Jake, it was unfortunate. It looked like an internet issue for you in race 1, but you made up for it in race 2.
Yeah, just Jake there saying this is an awkward situation to be in because he can also hear me repeating his words. Just saying there was a good battle there with Ethan, and good to get the win, I expect. And unfortunate in race 1 to have that dropout. So swinging fortunes for Jake Moloney in our races tonight, Stairs.
Very much so. Congratulations, of course, to Jake Moloney, closing, of course, that gap that he gave up in race 1 back up to about 36 points, I believe. Moving on to our twice podium sitter in tonight's races, Sean Allen finishing 2nd and 3rd and keeping Kurt Stenberg behind. Tell us how you did it.
Absolutely. Sean Allen there just saying, which you can't hear, that his car handled like a bit of a dog for the whole night, and then, until he realised he could push the brake bias forwards and brake a lot later, and a good little ding-dong battle between himself and Kurt Stenberg, seeing who can make who can make the least small mistakes towards the end of race 2, and Sean Allen luckily coming out ahead in that particular little battle.
Just as it appears, I've fixed the audio issue. So we unfortunately don't have Ethan Warren and Mark Pickett with us, our other podium sitters for tonight. But we, of course, congratulate all of our podium sitters and race winners tonight. Fantastic job indeed, and we can't wait to see what you guys do at the Bend in 3 weeks' time. Madbird, closing thoughts?
Absolutely cracking races from all of our runners. Fantastic battle at the front and through the midfield in both races. This series continues to deliver, and I cannot wait for the next one, Stairs. And it's been an absolute pleasure being back in the box with you.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for us tonight. We'll catch you in 4 weeks' time. 4 weeks? 3 weeks. It's on your screen. We're having a great night, aren't we? At the Bend Motorsport Park circuit will be new to a lot of our competitors, so it's going to be a true journey into the unknown. Speaking of unknown tracks, don't forget to check out the 7th round of the Apex Rear Wing DRM Championship tomorrow night from the fictional Hollowham Raceway, a fantasy circuit built by our very own Roadhog, and that'll be very exciting indeed. See you next time. Bye for now.
See you later.